am Govt. I'm excited to share my knowledge and my experience to all of you who are attending my Zoom class and whosoever is listening the recording of this Zoom class as well. So let's talk about our subject of the day, Foundations of Canadian Law. Foundations of Canadian Law is a very, very vast and interesting subject. It teaches us a lot about the journey, development, and influence on the Canadian law making. We learn the feminist point of view, we learn the economic point of view, we learn the role of the judges, how a unique Canadian legal system have been developed in all those years, and how the system is always evolving with the new meanings, new challenges. COVID is a unfortunate challenge the Canadian legal system is facing. We know the boundaries are changing, the provincial law is changing, the cities are facing the bigger challenge. So we have to see how this can influence and give new direction to our law. So for example, if we talk about the Canadian legal system, we are all aware that we have two systems over here. We have a bijurilism and bilingualism at the same time. Bijurilism means we have a dual system of law. Bilingualism means we have laws written in two languages. But if I am speaking in my native language and saying, hey, how are you feeling today? If I say in my own dialect, it would make sound something different. Person belonging to my culture would understand what I actually mean. Am I taunting? Am I, kind of genuinely concerned or fearful? So the language itself changed the meaning of law. So when we study the bilingualism, we learn how law has been interpreted to give harmonious meaning to both these languages. So this is about the bilingualism. Don't confuse it with the bijurilism, because in bijurilism we are talking about civil law and we are talking about common law, how these two legal systems have been working in Canada and how they interact with each other. So for now, my purpose of this class is to give you overview and give a new perspective to whatever you are doing, wherever you're doing in Foundations of Canadian Law. Any other question you have for me so that we can develop a dialogue? Many people had not been able to join this class, and you know what? So we should use this opportunity to kind of develop a dialogue among us and be able to make it more fruitful for you. So Simon, I would start with you on the right side. Do you have any question? Okay, so where are you in your reading in the foundation? Right. And Tavo, do you have any question? I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, please. Toby. Hi, Toby. I think we are meeting the second time, right? Oh, hi. I think I found a fan, right? Who likes to attend my classes. Lovely. Correct. Yes, but in that third system, Toby, they cannot come into the mainstream law, right? So when we are trying to understand, like that's there, but Aboriginal system is applicable. That's not a journal application law, right? So it only applies to you and me when we go and interact with them. Supposing we are trying to get, something which is Aboriginal, we enter them to, let's talk about how Aboriginal law would change, the Canadian system of how Aboriginal law would change the Canadian law. For example, in common law, we have an agreement. Supposing you signed up tutoring agreement with me, correct? So that would be governed by contract law, law society. Since I'm a lawyer, it would be considered by, it would be governed by law society's rules, because I need to do what the lawyer can do in this situation, right? Now, so we are looking at contract law, we are looking at evidence law, and if you have to sue me, you will go to court and use civil process, correct? So you are using contract law, civil process, evidence law, and of course, since my role is as a law, in every situation, once you get called to the bar, you are a lawyer, and that every decision and every public dealing has to go with the obligation and the culture of being a lawyer. You're representing a class of privileged people who have been called to the bar, and they owe it to everybody, right? A system of courtesy, a culture of civility and everything, correct? Now, that being said, going back to our example of Aboriginal as a third pillar of law, in my opinion, the third pillar of law of Aboriginal people only comes into picture when we interact with them. For example, in a tutoring contract, we will be governed by common law in this situation, right? Common law interpretation of contract and everything. Now, beyond that, there is a provision of Aboriginal contract. For example, you go, I am a native person, you come and you really like my hunting weapon, right? You really like my hunting weapon, and you say, Gul, I want to buy this thing, and we have a contract, correct? We have a written contract to say where you are trying to buy my grandfather's hunting weapon, correct? So when you are trying to buy my grandfather's hunting weapon, and then you're trying to enforce that contract, when later on I change my mind, I says, Toby, I don't want to sell it, it's my traditional thing or something like that. You influence through the court, you use that process to take my weapon, correct? At that level, you will stumble into Aboriginal law, right? You cannot use a contract to take away my weapon. Why? Because it's belong to my culture. Why? Because it is my cultural thing, and it cannot leave my place of origin, correct? It's culturally owned. So that's how common law of contract would stumble into Aboriginal, which is third system, and that kind of the process gets stayed there. That's how that gets frozen there, and then you cannot move forward from that, right? But Aboriginal law cannot come and influence our tutoring contract where you had, right? So that's the difference. That's the point I'm trying to say. You asked me a question that whether we have three systems in Canada of law. Yes, we have civil, we have common, and underlying thread we have is Aboriginal system, which we need to value, we need to apply, we need to respect, and we need to interpret our laws to keeping. Whenever you are a federal government or you are a provincial government, you are bound with your promises made to Aboriginal people, the treaties and the interpretation and all that stuff. But then I talked about the fact how this law comes into the main street and influence our decision making, or whether it kind of changes anything between you and me, right? It changes between you and me if I'm an Aboriginal person and you are asking me for my weapon, and at that level the contract law would not kind of enforce me. So specific performance of a contract cannot be done for an Aboriginal artifact, correct? That's where your laws system stop, and my Aboriginal status would come out. That's how it works. But you should not kind of confuse it in a way that it actually helps you to do something positively as an individual who is non-Aboriginal, correct? Until unless you don't interact with them, until unless you don't, you know, get into a contract of, for example, in family law also it works like that, criminal law, civil law, there are rules in which how we interact with them, but those are the systems which need to be respected and followed in their own spirit. But you cannot say that they come and govern our civil law or common law. They cannot come and say like, oh hey, that's how you cannot have a contract about you know, Aboriginal things, correct? For example, that won't be used to interpret our contract law. Both of us, when I am a lawyer and you're a student who is just trying to learn, say, foundations of Canadian law from me, correct? Toby, I booked you as a student. You'll see my invoice. It was a trap. Just joking. Yeah, go ahead. Irvanpreet, yes. Hi. Do you have any question for me from this? And I'm enjoying this conversation. Thank you very much for asking such a wonderful question, Toby. Yeah, go ahead, Irvan. I'm addressing you. Good. Just decided to go. Do you have any question about bilingualism, bijuriliasm, how it works and how it can so I'll give you homework, Irvin. So bilingualism means when we are talking about two languages in Canada, correct? We have two official languages Canada. We have one French and we have one English law. English as the official languages of Canada. But bilingualism doesn't stop here. Bilingualism is more than that. Bilingualism is about interpreting the laws to understand it. Supposing we have a contract in Toby, let's go back to a tutoring contract. You are my victim today for the trial class. So let's see, we have a contract which is purely written in French, correct? And when we have a dispute, we'll go to further, we would go to the courts to enforce it. Toby, if you sue me, I won't teach you. So oh wow, you speak French? Okay, so I'm safe, right? So I can make you write anything and then you will have no clue. So we were talking about the fact that we have a tutoring contract which is purely written in French, correct? And then we go to we have a dispute and we go to the courts, correct? And the courts are trying to interpret as per the case law laid down, correct? And all other principles, right? So bilingualism talks about interpreting things in harmony and making sure they do not lose their context, right? When they are converted from one language to another. Are we clear? So this is what we mean over bilingualism over here. So in bilingualism, a French contract under application of English case laws or English principles, or for example, we have a Law Society of Ontario rules which talks about, so bilingualism is more than providing translation of the law. So the law is not just to be translated between English and French, but it is something more than that. And that was like context of our bigger conversation. We need a full lesson to understand bilingualism in the main, in its true spirit. But for right now, for our understanding of this overview of Masterclass, we can say that bilingualism is definitely more than the definition or translation of two laws. So So it into two system, it's something more than that. For example, Bijuriliasm is about respecting how we have a civil law, and somebody coming from Quebec and they have their own education, and then they upgrade their education to get do license in Ontario. So they also kind of go into the different system because they came from a different legal system, correct? Though they have their own licensing path. So that's how you need to pick examples from normal, you can say, we would say we need to pick up example from the normal understanding. That's how I teach. When I'm teaching my actual classes, I will try to bring like the silliest things, right? So that you get the concept, all the information written out there. You don't need me to, English, law. You don't need me to, kind of, I would say, break it down for you. That's one concept of tutoring. Another concept of tutoring is bringing it at the easy things, bring things at the table where you can say, oh, I know how it's interpreted. Because in foundation law, there's lot of questions are asked, like, how do you feel about it? Forget about the feeling. If you never understood things properly, how would you give your opinion on that, right? So my foundation law classes are based on the fact that things, civil law, common law, bilingualism, bijuriliasm. My job is to introduce the easier concept to bring out the dialogue between that, so that you can feel comfortable about writing the exam. And of course, I will teach you the basics, I will teach you the complexity, but more than that, my purpose is like when I was starting my journey 2009, I was looking at the things, and I did my NCAs in 2010. I had less information, so my job is to make you feel comfortable and as easy as possible and make you fall in love with the subject. Yes. Any other question you have? Of course, when we are in the civil law system, we will be following the civil law system only. In Quebec courts, we cannot come and say, hey, that's how they would treat things in Toronto, right? The judge would. Yes, we'll go by the code, but we cannot go in Montreal court and say, hey, that's how they will be treating it in Toronto. So we need to make us so whatever the system we are in, right, we need to follow that, right? Go ahead, please. No, in that we are 7. We are looking at. I hope you're Simon or Simon. Simon, hi Simon. So we are talking about 3 things over here. Number 1, jurisdiction of a contract, which is civil law, right? So in civil process, we will decide if we had a contract which says, okay, every time we have a dispute, it's strictly Montreal courts or strictly Vancouver court or Toronto court. That word goes into the jurisdiction of the thing, right? Forget about the jurisdiction for the time being. Let's say the jurisdiction is not an issue, right? For our argument's sake. So if jurisdiction is not an issue and you are having a contract in Toronto, if I'm having the right understanding of the facts, so we have a contract in Toronto, commercial contract between A. Can you repeat the facts, please? Quebec City. And what is the language of the contract? French. And where do you want to file the case? Toronto. Then we will apply the civil law over there, and then we are looking at bilingualism, not bijuriliasm, right? So we are looking at bilingualism. Going back to my basic example, we are interpreting the contract as per this, right? If you have any follow-up question, I'm here from last 10 years and I'm always here. You have my page, Canadian Law Tutor. You can just message me. At times it might take some time to reach out to me, but I'm always there and trying my best to reach out to people. and be able to, I always welcome random questions. Like you can just, if you're studying on your own, you have a random question, you can say, hey girl, this is what it is. And I love interacting with intellectual minds, and this is why my passion for tutoring is, because I come across amazing people who make me think differently, and this is what I love about my work. I hope I've answered your question, Simon. Yes, Erwin? Any question? Enjoying the show? Enjoying the conversation of the law? Right, wonderful. No, foundation is an amazing concept. Subject. It gives you a lot of, it's very good for anybody who has done constitution and who have done admin. Now you can wind up things, right? Yes, go ahead. And anything else? Any other? That's fine, yeah, but we never know how the examiner is going to quiz us, so it's better to have like overall, remember the way we are saying bijuriliasm and things like that. So everything we need to know the crux of the things. It's the best is if you have a like-minded study buddy, or you have a guidance of a tutor with whom you understand, and you go, or a lawyer who just give you an overview, because it's a lot to breathe in, right? You're welcome to attend my classes and be work with me. Now you know how I work, so I try to bring the comfort level to the subject and as well as to the knowledge, connect the dots with the easiest possible way, so that we can say, oh, I got it, I can handle it, right? Because we are all lawyers, we know what we are doing, but end of the day we need to have a comfort with the subject, and we need to understand like, oh, this is what the remember the way I explained you bilingualism and bijuriliasm, that bilingualism is something more than the translation, right? So when you, now with this information, when you read 5 cases, you'll be like, oh, she told me, and now I got it, and that's what it is, right? Yeah, so I'm also planning to do a crash course for people who are rewriting subject in September. My staff should have the details about how we'll go about it. Of course I would. Yes, of course I would. You will have. And then anything else, you can just follow my page, and I try to put things on my page as well, so that you don't miss anything, right? Now you know how to reach me. If you have me on Messenger, you have on my page, you can have, I can give you my phone number right here, and you can just call me and say, hey girl, you know what, you said that you are a lawyer, you gave an undertaking. You are a lawyer, you gave an undertaking. Correct. Yes. No, she gave a virtual undertaking and class was recorded, and here we have the proof from Zoom, right? Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. No, that's how we, that's how it should be, and it should be, we should take care of each other, and it's something more than a business. It's love of the law and love of and comfort of becoming a lawyer in Canada. You should have a good cushion around you, and supported by knowledge and opportunities. And trust me, if I worked hard in those times, I learned, and it helped me, and I'm so blessed to be part of so many journeys in these last 10 years, and be able to. Recently my student hired my 2015 student hired my 2020 student as an articling student in his firm, and that was like such an amazing feeling. Yes, and we need to support each other. I have no, hesitation in, admitting the fact that I was overwhelmed when I did it. And I'm thankful to the books. I'm thankful to Mr. Hogg, whose book I read. And I'm thankful to Mr. Mullen, whose book I read for admin. And like those were 2000 pages book. I had no clue my syllabus was for admin was page 780 to 1180. No clue what the admin law is trying to talk to me. So that was the level of the syllabus I had. And before, I think a week before my exam, I took a stapler and stapled the book and put small sticky notes by this, but it was worth it. No matter whose classes you take, how you plan to work, fall in love with the books, that's always pay off in the long run, right? Because don't get me started on the books journey. I had, I ordered books from Canada, and I was the only one living in India who actually at that time only you need to come to Canada to write the exam. There was no way you could do back home, so I was the first one who got this opportunity to do, and I passed my exams in one go, and I was just given 3 exams for NCAs. I haven't met anybody who has been given 3 exams to write. Personally, I just did Constitution, admin, as well as criminal. These are 3 subjects I wrote. My evaluation says I did these 3 subjects, and I used to order books. I ordered the books, and no matter my sister-in-law was trying to help me to give to the books to the person, like whosoever is coming to India, because they were like too big to ship, and people would not bring them because they were so heavy, right? And then she would pick that from that person's, go to somebody, hunt for another person leaving from India, and then she would get it there, right? Yeah, so for 2 months, people were not convinced, like, who need this 2 kg of information? It was hard. So you were lucky that way because you had your mom who would, put in her, suitcase for you. I had no one to do that for me. Yeah, no, it's amazing to meet you guys. Thank you very much. I hope it helped you. Make you fall in love with the subject, and hope I have answered some queries, and I'll be happy to meet you in following classes, in my actual classes or master classes, and we will try to bring more wisdom to you guys, and so that we can just keep falling in love with law. That's my purpose of doing it. Yeah, thank you. So thank you very much, Toby, for bringing this, dialogue into a different level, and, bringing it more informative for everyone. And your questions are very, very interesting and very, very informative, and it broadened the view of everyone. And you have taught me a lot as well. So I learned, like, okay, that's how a student thinks, right? Because I have, from 10 years, I'm looking at the different, side of the law. So now when a student asks me a question, then I just enjoy answering it, so that I can say, like, yes, you know what, at times we all feel that maybe I'm asking a dumb question. There is no dumb question.